Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of Follow Suit, Fashion Unfiltered. Follow suit is a mantra, which means to follow the suit. And as you follow it, you're going to come to realize the suit is a role model and a mentor, whose purpose is to give guidance to the young men of this community and as well as to society. And it is my goal to honor and salute some of the individuals who not only put on the suit, but they wear it well. Hence the point, my guest today. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And just like the intro says, this is Follow Suit, Fashion Unfiltered. We're going to call this one Legends Edition. My guest today is a legend. He's modest. He doesn't want to be called a legend. Well, I know he's a legend. I'm going to give his accolades as we go along. So my distinguished guest that I'm honored and privileged to have on my show is Mr. John Rice.
Thank you for having me.
AKA Boo, for those who know him personally over 20 years. How's it going?
Not bad at all. Pleasure to be here. You're a longtime friend. Love what you're doing. And you know, sharing, highlighting people from our community, bringing to light the works that so many others before my interview that I watched, also the great work that they have contributed to our community.
I appreciate it, brother. So, you know, it's John Rice, but probably most of the people that know him in the community, especially because we're talking about honoring and saluting those who are doing work with the youth and making strides for our community with our future adults. So they probably all know you as Coach Rice.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I'm a retired Boston public school teacher, taught for 36 years in the Boston public school system, but I also coach boys football and girls basketball. Spent 25 years at Jeremiah Burke. Came in there at the age of 25 and left at the age of 50. And just, you know, wanted to be in my community and you know, work with the young people and be a role model and try to give to them some of the things that wasn't offered to me, and just be above average with everything. My whole way of life, just try to be above average in the classroom, outside the classroom, in the community.
Right. Okay, so let's spin back a little bit to Follow Suit, fashion, because we're going to talk a little fashion, because you got on your sharp boots, you got your nice tie on, you got a pretty knot in it, better knot than I can make. So let's talk about who you think inspired you with your fashion coming up.
Well, I'm a Ferragamo guy. That's my number one fashion artist that I enjoy, you know, wearing their products. But fashion for me growing up was like jeans and sneakers as a youth. You know, not really into suits and those kinds of things, but it was like more fashion of the era of designer jeans in the late 70s, early 80s, with the Jordache and the Calvin Klein jeans and Top 10 Adidas and Shell Toes and the Izod, and that was kind of like the fashion for us. And so that's where that began for me. But as an adult, you know, we all have different wardrobes. You know, we have a sports wardrobe, you know, a high affair wardrobe, you know, where things are very professional, or work wardrobe. So there's different ones where the fashion comes in. But I always just, as far as fashion, I just want my clothes to fit the way that I want them to fit. That's what's very important for me.
Right. So who taught you how to tie a tie?
Well, actually, I went to YouTube with it, but after I left the Burke High School, my last 8 years at the Edwards Middle School in Charlestown, I started a piece in the middle school where I realized that all the young kids and the young men in the middle school didn't know how to tie a tie, because I didn't at their age. So I had other teachers donate their ties, their husband ties, and brought them in. I started a class within the school to teach these young men how to tie the tie, you know, single Windsor, full Windsor knots. And it was very successful, you know, went over very well. And even some of the younger female students got involved as well. So, and it just brought, like, pride to them. Just, for the first time, something, where they hadn't had that taught to them before. It went over really well.
Right, yeah. And women tie ties pretty well once they learn, because my mother taught me how to tie my tie, And the reason I asked that question is because a lot of young men coming up in the areas are coming from single parent homes, and there is no one to teach them how to tie, or it has to be their mother that teaches them, So I always ask that question, who taught, because sometimes probably 80 to 90% of the guests I have, they would say they didn't know, or their mother, And so that's one of the reasons why it's great that you started that program, because it's a missing thing in our community as well.
Yeah, anything that I recognize, because, having the advantage of teaching in the public school system was, what did I miss? What did I miss out on? What wasn't shown to me? That's what I tried to give back. And I'm still, teaching now through retirement. But, that was tying the tie was one of those things.
Right. So you tell me you're not a fashionista. You got on some nice quarter cuts, ankle boots, or Cheshire boots, whichever way y'all want to call them. I call them all three. So do you prefer the boot or the shoe?
Yeah, I like the athletic shoe boot cut, the athletic fit. These are my little Ferragamo boots, but that's my style. I'm not a tall, lanky guy. I'm short, athletic build, so I like a nice heel, and I like the fit of the slack with the boot look. That's just my look. I like the fitted look, and that's kind of like my style. Never kind of been into loafers, but I'm not been major in dress, period. But I just like the quality. Don't go out of the way with it, like on a weekly basis. But when I go out, I want to go and I want to look the way I want to look.
Yeah, so they say quality over quantity.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes, exactly. So, so let's talk about John Rice, aka Boo Rice. Well-decorated high school standout in basketball and football.
Yes, football was my main sport, but I was a 13-year-old freshman. And most of our legends were, 15-year-old legends. I was a 15-year-old junior, so I spent one day in kindergarten. They put me in the first, and I went to the first or the third. So I found myself as a 16-year-old senior, and still hung with the big boys out there with Terry Walker and all those guys that were great. Mike Bennett, they were the seniors, but I was, a 16-year-old. I held my own, did well.
You won a state championship?
No, coaching, but not in high school.
We had plenty of them. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Right, but I went through the forced busing, got bused to 4 different high schools, so I had a tough time through high school. But I just maintained, kept a positive energy about myself. Kept my circle small. I had a couple of teachers. One main teacher, Dr. Roger Harris, who mentored me along with many others, and I just followed along his footsteps. He was my former health and phys ed teacher, my football coach. Now he's Dr. Roger Harris. So I said, this is what I want to do. I want to make an impact like he did.
And you are definitely doing that. So how many years have you been coaching?
Over 30 years, maybe about 32 years.
That's football and basketball, boys and girls.
Long-time assistant football coach at the Burke, and then I became the head coach. We went to the Super Bowl, had 8 or 9 kids get scholarships. I was, proud to say one of our players, Alex Awumi, went to Georgetown from the Burke. Dana Burris and Alex Lavana went to Stonehill, Andy Holmes, and a couple, guys went to different schools. That's the main thing that was about. That's one of the ways I could find that I could contribute to my community through athletics, uplifting the burden of paying their college tuition, helping develop their skills, and letting them know the importance of their education while I got them in the building. and having that influence on the young men and the young women inside the high school, especially with a school like the Burke. It was a tough school back in the late 80s, early 90s.
About the Burke, he was in the belly of the beast.
Yeah, I was a health and phys ed teacher, football coach, girls basketball coach, assistant dean of discipline. So I wore many hats over there. But there was a lot of love throughout all the tough times we had. We lost a few of our young students, but there was a lot of love still from Dr. Albert Holland on down. There's a lot of love. I'm still close with some of my former students to this day.
Yeah, I know. I see you interact with someone when they come around, so I know you've been a very positive role model for all of them. So how many state championships with the girls have you won?
Three. We lost one final. We won 20 city championships between Burke and Fenway. In multiple kids making the all-scholastic team and getting scholarships. That's where the real importance is. Like the Massachusetts Coaches Hall of Fame Association, they're looking for my numbers, but I really didn't keep track of my numbers because those kinds of things never really were important to me.
Right.
I'm more a man of action than words, and something a lot of us are. So I kind of struggle to, express my works more than I get the works done. But it's just such a rewarding experience. And then later, getting back to the coaching. So that's really what it's about. Helping out people hopefully get a scholarship. Not all will, but changing their self-esteem.
Right.
And seeing the ones that their parents are not there, kids that live in foster homes, and some students just hungry every day. There's a lot of things that go within the school system and dealing with our young people and all the distractions and all of the other ethnicities that are shown easily except for our own ethnicity, our own culture.
Right.
And which led me to wear my hair the way that I do now, just because of the consciousness that we need to have. And have an understanding of who we really are. So I'm kind of where there's a saying that I posted. I quoted someone: a man receives two educations. One is given to him. The second one he gives to himself.
Right.
And so
seen that post.
So I started studying and researching all the things that wasn't taught to me. So I went through the mainstream education. Graduated high school, graduated from UMass. Then I started looking into what was withheld from me. So now that's something that I'm on to now.
So let's back up a little bit. UMass, you started at UMass on the basketball team. Mm-hmm. You got a couple of records there?
Well, yeah, I was the first one to go into the Hall of Fame over there. I'm the only one to get drafted.
I told you, ladies and gentlemen, the man has accolades. He didn't want to bring him up, but the man has accolades. Yeah. Hall of Fame, UMass. Yeah. Okay? Not to get off track. But.
Right. One of the best stories is not having an agent, finishing my senior year at UMass, and just happened to be watching the news and seeing myself that I just got drafted. And it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. It's a lifelong dream.
Right.
And went down, played very well, and made really good friends with the late great Dennis Johnson. And the Celtics were loaded at that time. I did really well at camp, and but with all those experiences with that, right after that, I went right into the school system.
Right.
And said, okay. I didn't get a lot of help. There was pre-AAU, almost made it to the league. So now let me give back this way.
Right.
So that's what's been going on with me for almost 40 years now.
Yes, sir. And like I said, I appreciate you and all the work you're doing, because that's what we're here for. Follow suit. It's about, inspiring young men to reach for their best. And on this show, we're here to honor and salute those who've been putting in the work and doing the work, like my man, John Blue Rice. So do you have any kind of programs, anything going on besides you're coaching right now?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm more into self-awareness for all people, but mainly the people who are directly in my community. So I find myself getting into areas that are not mainstream, and pointing out to students like things that are socially constructed that are not real, but we look at it as real, like race.
Right.
This is just a social construct. It doesn't exist. It's unscientific. And people holding prejudices and acting the fool and cutting the fool and, threatening to, pull up arms over something that's not even real.
Right.
And then following the grandmaster teachers like Dr. Sebi, who taught me how to eat. So now I'm in my 60s, and I'm just plant-based. I'm trying to talk. I mentor quite a few adults who reach out to me about their health concerns. So I try to. The things that I taught myself, because being a former health teacher, they're not in the books for us to teach.
Right.
The old food guide pyramid, I don't go along with that anymore. And so it's just, just in the way I explain it, you can't get life from death. It's a dead animal. It's just the opposite. So those are the things that I'm doing now. That's kind of like my ministry, is like my health ministry, still in the school system, and looking after my health, my family, and my community. Anybody I can share this information with that's willing to listen, because that's some of the things that are difficult for people to take in, is like what their religious and spiritual beliefs are, what they're going to eat.
Right.
And so that's where I have some tough conversations with right now.
So you still coaching the girls at Fenway this year?
Yes.
You gonna coach a couple of more years, or?
I found my replacement, because timing is right. Timing is everything. You want to leave the program in good shape,
right.
And I just got into the girls coaching period way back at the Burke, because no one really wanted to work with girls at that time, pre-WNBA. And we grew up in the era, we go out to the courts and you find the five guys that think they were good.
Right.
They want to go out and I'll just give me any four, and then beat those five guys. So that's where kind of I wanted to get involved with the young women and their athletics, because they don't get that much support,
right.
Less crowds. There's no big payday like the NBA,
right.
So there's no need of going crazy with that. And I was like, come on, I'm gonna make these girls into something special.
Right.
And there was some really great players, some All-Americans, Star Fuller and Marsha Blaylock, who was a younger brother, used to sit on our bench as a youngster. Will Blaylock ended up making the NBA himself. Rakia Penton, and then all the great players that I had over at Fenway, Jalissa Ross and Taja Vega Lee and those kids. And so that's where it is.
Right. Putting in that work for our community. I love you, brother, and I appreciate you.
Love you too, likewise.
Everybody, once again, the legend, Boston legend, John Blue Rice, a.k.a. Coach Rice. It's my pleasure having you on here.
Pleasure being here.
Hopefully we can do it again.
Absolutely. Sounds good to me. Love you too, brother.
That's it. We're wrapping up this show. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be back for more episodes.